My brother, Gale Henderson, was the obsessive villain in a tragic romance novel, but he doted on his little sister even more. He loved me more than he had ever loved the female lead, Anna Umbridge. On my first day of kindergarten, I got into big trouble. Anna was threatening to throw herself into the river, but Gale left her there and rushed to the school to clean up my mess. From then on, he spent every day either bailing me out or on his way to bail me out. Before long, his life no longer revolved around Anna. Then one day, the school called my guardian after I got into a fight with a classmate. My brother stormed in, then froze when he saw the other child's mother. It was Anna, the woman he had loved for years but could never have. I lowered my head and did not dare make a sound. I was terrified that seeing her would bring back his old feelings. Anna gracefully played with her hair and looked down on me as she said, "It was only a fight between two kids. She doesn't look badly to hurt me. For the sake of what we once had, have your sister apologize, and we can consider this settled." My older brother's expression darkened. "Are you insane? Who do you think you are, comparing yourself to my little sister?" The new transfer student introduced herself at the front of the classroom. She timidly said, "Hello, everyone. I'm Bella Umbridge. I hope we can all get along." The moment I saw her face, alarm bells rang in my head. When my older brother Gale was younger, he had nearly ruined himself over a woman named Anna. After breaking up with her boyfriend, she threatened to jump off a building late one night. Gale stayed with her on the roof until morning, only to learn that she had done it to make her boyfriend jealous. When her boyfriend showed an interest in animals, Anna decided she wanted a cat. Gale carefully picked out a gentle kitten for her. But once she got pregnant, she abandoned the cat without a second thought. Gale brought the cat home, and it still lived with us. By the time I started kindergarten, I was getting into all kinds of troubles every day. Fighting and breaking things became routine until every parent at the school lodged a complaint against me. Gale had no choice but to distance himself from Anna and spend his days cleaning up my messes. I had seen a photo of Anna on his phone before, so I knew we were in trouble as soon as I saw the transfer student. Then I heard her name. Bella Umbridge. My heart sank. Anna's daughter was named Bella Umbridge. Mrs. Smith glanced around the room before finally turning to me. "Pearl, Bella can sit next to you for now." I immediately stood up to my feet. "I'm too disruptive. I might be a bad influence on her, so she should sit with someone else." Mrs. Smith waved me off impatiently. "Just sit together for now. We'll switch seats in a few days." Bella then came over and sat down, but I shifted away from her. She pulled things out from her backpack and slammed them onto the desk, making a huge racket. What was wrong with her? Maybe she had some kind of mental illness? I moved even farther away, worried that she might pass whatever she had on to me. Without warning, she slammed her backpack down. Then, she buried her face in her arms and started crying. A student behind us whispered, "Pearl, did you bully the new girl?" I stared at her, too stunned to react. Bella jerked her head up and glared at me with red eyes. "Do you hate me? Do you think you're better than me?" I froze. "What?" Her voice rose to a shriek. "You do think you're better than me. You refuse to sit with me in front of the whole class. What gives you the right to humiliate me like this?" I frowned. I said I'm difficult and didn't want to be a bad influence. What did I do wrong? As a villain in this story, was I not even allowed to avoid someone? Bella sobbed as she threw all kinds of accusations my way. "It's my first day, and I made a mistake on my paper. You saw that I didn't have an eraser, but you refused to lend me one because you wanted to laugh at me. You even rolled up your sleeve so I'd see the diamond bracelet on your wrist. You were showing off. Your name is Pearl, so you think you're special? You get to be a precious pearl, and I'm just a belladonna. A mere plant." I was speechless. How was I supposed to know she did not have an eraser? I had not even looked at her. As long as the bracelet was on my wrist, I could wear it however I wanted since it was mine. What did that have to do with her? And if she hated her name so much, she could ask her mother to change it. What did that have to do with me? Her string of accusations immediately made me remember her mother Anna. Years ago, Gale had taken Anna to an expensive restaurant, and she accused him of using his money to humiliate her for being poor. Another time, Gale missed her call because he was working late. So, she sent him dozens of messages accusing him of not loving her anymore. She then blocked him and refused to forgive him until he stood in the rain outside her apartment all night. Like a mother, like a daughter. They had the same sensitivity to take offense at everything. My temper flared, and I rolled my eyes. "Are you crazy?" Bella froze at the insult I threw at her. Then her shoulders began to shake, and she sobbed so hard she almost fainted. She made it look as if I had bullied her in front of everyone. The other students could not help but start whispering among themselves. Isn't the new girl a little too sensitive? She started crying because Pearl didn't offer her an eraser. Pearl has a temper, sure. But what did any of that have to do with her name? Pearl always wears that bracelet. I never even noticed whether it had diamonds. Bella only cried even louder. When the class president realized things were getting out of hand, he ran to the office for the homeroom teacher, Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith quickly came over. She looked at Bella, who could barely breathe through her sobs, while I sat there with rage written all over my face. She slammed her hand on the desk and started scolding me. Pearl, can you go one day without causing trouble? I was furious and I had just wanted to explain, it was her. Be quiet. Mrs. Smith roared and refused to listen to my explanation. Everyone in this grade knows about your temper. You cause trouble every day. Apologize to Bella right now. I did not move. Why should I apologize? Mrs. Smith lost her patience. You won't apologize? Fine. I'm calling your parents. Normally, that would not have scared me. Gail had been called to the school so often that neither of us cared anymore. But this time was different. Bella looked so much like Anna that I was getting uneasy. What if Gail saw her and started thinking about Anna again? I took a deep breath and forced down my anger. Then I lowered my head. Then, as I gritted my teeth, I said, I'm sorry. I spent the rest of the day seething. As soon as the final bell rang, I bolted from the classroom. I sprinted through the school gates and threw myself into the passenger seat of Gail's car. He was so shocked that he almost dropped his cigarette. Is a monster chasing you or something? Just drive. Hurry up. He stared at me. What happened? Did you beat up another kid? Or did a dog chase you? Just drive. Why are you asking so many questions? I growled. Gail frowned. Pearl, tell me the truth. I ignored him and reached for the steering wheel. Seeing that he had no choice, he finally gave in and stepped on the gas, pulling away. Through the window, I spotted Bella walking out through the school gates. That was close. Gail had almost seen her. He steered with one hand and asked, all right. Talk. What trouble did you cause today? I looked guiltily out the window. Maybe I just wanted to get home early and do my homework. You? Homework? You won't do your homework even if the world's survival depends on it. Gail said as he ruffled my hair. Pearl, when are you going to stop making me worry? After we got home, I did not tease the cat or break anything. That alone made Gail suspicious. He sat down on the couch and started playing his game on his phone while I pretended to reach for the remote and extended my neck to peek at the screen. He noticed, flipped the phone face down, and raised an eyebrow. What's going on? Just tell me if you need money. I was only checking what you were doing, I said, pretending nothing had happened. I'm busy saving for your bail, he said irritably. I moved behind the couch. Gail, is there anyone you like right now? I did not dare ask whether he still thought about Anna. What if he had almost forgotten her, and my question made him remember her? Gail paused, then flicked my forehead as he said, I spend every day bailing you out. When would I have time for anyone else? I let out a sigh of relief inside of me. As long as I kept them from meeting, Gail would not go back to his old self, right? The next day, I decided to stay far away from Bella. However, she refused to leave me alone. After class, Bella went to the water dispenser. On her way back, she suddenly slipped. The whole cup of water poured over my head. Water soaked my hair and clothes, along with my books on the desk. Luckily, the school dispenser only held warm water, so I was not burned. My temper flared, and I kicked my chair aside. Are you blind? Bella hunched her shoulders and gave me an innocent look. It was an accident. Why are you being so mean? I know you didn't like me from the start, but I really didn't do it on purpose. I let out an angry chuckle. You didn't do it on purpose? Then how about I throw you into the fountain downstairs and say I didn't do it on purpose? Bella froze, then crouched down and started crying. It was my fault. I shouldn't have bumped into you. I'm new here. I don't know how things work. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The girl in front of us tugged at my sleeve. Pearl, let it go. She apologized and she's new here too. Another girl chimed in. Exactly. Look at her crying. She probably didn't mean it. I clenched my fists, too furious to speak. I was the one who had been drenched, yet everyone acted as if I was being the bully. I had always had a short temper. In the past, I would have slapped her by now. But the thought of the school calling Gail made me hold back. All I could do was kick the desk as I returned to my seat, trying to wipe my clothes and books dry as I gritted my teeth. I told myself I only had to endure her until the teacher changed our seats. That afternoon, Mrs. Smith walked into the classroom with a grim expression. Bella followed her, wiping away tears. Pearl, stand up, she said coldly. I had no idea what was happening. Even if Bella had complained about the water, my clothes were still wet. How could she possibly be in the right? Mrs. Smith slammed a hand on her desk. Bella's money for her tuition fees are missing. Have you seen it? I sneered. Why are you asking me? She's the one who lost it. Bella hid behind Mrs. Smith as if she were afraid of me. I didn't say she took it. I only said I left it in my backpack, and only the person sitting next to me could have seen it. She glanced at me, then quickly lowered her head. My temper immediately flared up. What are you saying? I never even looked inside your backpack. Bella trembled and cried. I never said you took it. Why are you so upset? My mother saved for a long time to get that money. Pearl, Please give it back. The room immediately turned against me. Pearl is always fighting. I didn't know she was a thief either. No wonder she looked ready to kill Bella over a little water. Maybe she felt guilty. That doesn't make sense. Isn't her family rich? Who knows? Maybe she just wanted to bully her. I stared at them in disbelief. Do you think my family needs her money? Do you really think I stole it, or have you all lost your minds? Pearl. Watch your tongue and attitude. Mrs. Smith shouted. Between sobs, Bella kept going. Look at her. She had a problem with me since my first day. She even insults me right in front of you. Another girl stepped forward. She's right. Pearl looked terrifying just now, like she was about to hit someone. Everyone knows Pearl has a bad temper. She's bullying the new student on purpose. I shook with rage. Lies. You bumped into me on purpose and poured water on me first. The suspicion and disappointment in Mrs. Smith's eyes only deepened. My reputation was so bad that no one believed me. I stared at Bella and spoke through clenched teeth. You say you brought the tuition money. Did anyone see it? Maybe you never had it. Maybe you came here to frame someone and make them pay your tuition. Bella looked humiliated and cried so hard she nearly fainted. You stole my money, and now you're calling me a liar. Will you only be happy if I'm dead? Mrs. Smith looked at a girl who was gasping as she sobbed, then at the other girl who was filled with violent fury. The amount was too large for Mrs. Smith to settle on her own. With a frown, she said, the amount is too big and this is beyond my pay grade. Call your parents here. My heart sank. Bella's parents? Wasn't that Anna? If Gale came to the school, he would come face to face with her. I pressed my lips together, sick with frustration. Then I made up my mind. You don't need to call my guardian. I'll pay for it. Mrs. Smith stared at me. Pearl, do you know how much this school's tuition costs? I frowned. It's only a few $1,000s. I'll pay her with my allowance, and this will be the end of it. I then quickly added, I can give her the money, but I didn't steal it. That was my bottom line. I was willing to pay to settle the matter, but I would never admit to stealing. Mrs. Smith frowned as she weighed her options. If I paid, she could avoid more trouble too. However, Bella refused to accept it. Look, Mrs. Smith. She's guilty. Why would she pay if she didn't steal it? This isn't just about the money. It's about character. There's a thief in our class. If she steals my tuition money today, what will she steal tomorrow? Still crying, she called her mother. Anna arrived soon afterward. After Mrs. Smith gave her a brief explanation, Anna twisted Bella's ear and started yelling. You stupid girl. How could you lose your tuition money? Do you know how long it took me to save that? How many times did I tell you to keep it with you? I stood there in stunned silence. This was the woman Gail had once loved so desperately. Strangely, my first reaction was disappointment. This was it? Was Gail blind all those years ago? Bella covered her ear and pointed at me. She did it. She stole the money. Anna looked me up and down. Her expression changed when she noticed the expensive brands I was wearing. Contempt filled her expression in that instance. You're the one who stole it? Where are your parents? Is this how they raised you? I tried to control my anger. I already said I didn't steal anything. But if you need the tuition money, I can cover it for you for now. My words struck a nerve in Anna and she immediately lost control of her emotions. You didn't steal it? Then why would you pay? You're obviously guilty. You're a thief. You're already stealing at your age instead of learning right from wrong. Then she sneered. You must have taken it. The money could be in your backpack right now. She snatched my backpack and dumped everything onto the floor. I clenched my fists as my belongings scattered everywhere. She searched everything yet she had found nothing, as expected. Anna still refused to give up. She then narrowed her eyes on me. You hid it under your clothes, didn't you? I took a step back. I told you I don't have it. She moved closer with a sneer. It's on you. You're afraid I'll find it. That was ridiculous. I naturally would not agree with what she wanted to do. But she immediately grabbed my collar and started cursing at me. Refusing to take off your clothes proves you're guilty. Take them off right now, you little witch. Her nails scraped my neck, and it was so painful. Why did I need to suffer such humiliation? My temper exploded in that instant. To hell with keeping them apart. To hell with holding back. I raised my foot and kicked her hard in the stomach. Get off me, you lunatic. Anna stared at me in disbelief. I had been fighting since I was little. I clawed at her before she could recover too. She screamed and slapped me hard across the face. You little witch. How dare you fight back? Suddenly, footsteps pounded down the hall and toward the classroom. I turned and saw Gail running toward us with a dark expression. I covered my face and said nothing as guilt twisted in my stomach. Gail had come after all. He had seen Anna. And Anna, who was choking me, let go of my neck. She smoothed her hair and gave him a shy smile. Gale walked into the room, several bodyguards in black followed him. Anna's eyes lit up the moment she saw my older brother. Her vicious look vanished. Suddenly, she seemed so frail and helpless. Her voice turned sickly sweet. Gale. The classroom office fell so silent you could hear the buzz of the fluorescent tube overhead. Anna stood there with her head tilted at that precise, fragile 45-degree angle she had spent a lifetime perfecting. Her lower lip quivered. Her eyes were dewy with unshed tears, and one delicate hand remained resting near her collarbone as if trying to steady her fluttering heart. Gale. She murmured again, her voice like spun sugar left out in the rain. I didn't know this was your sister. If I had known, would have handled this differently. It was only a fight between two kids. She doesn't look badly hurt to me. For the sake of what we once had, have your sister apologize, and we can consider this settled. Gale didn't look at her face. His eyes had landed on my neck first, where 4 jagged red scratches were already swelling into ugly welts, and then on my right cheek, which was burning red from the slap. His jaw set with an audible click. When he finally turned his gaze toward Anna, there was no nostalgic warmth in his dark eyes. There was no lingering heartbreak, no hesitation, no flicker of the broken young man who had once stood in the downpour beneath her balcony, waiting for a text message that never came. There was only sheer, disgusted disbelief. Are you insane? Gale asked, his voice low, flat, and colder than a meat locker. Who do you think you are, comparing yourself to my little sister? Anna's fragile expression froze. A tiny crack appeared in her mask. Gale. What are you saying? You know what Bella means to me. She was terrified. This girl is Pearl Henderson, Gale cut in, taking 2 steps forward. The 2 hulking bodyguards in tailored black suits behind him shifted simultaneously, blocking the doorway and cutting off the draft from the hallway. And you just put your hands on her. Mrs. Smith, who had spent the last 20 minutes bullying me with the full weight of her authority, suddenly looked like she had swallowed a whole lemon. She recognized Gale Henderson. The Henderson Group had funded the school's newly built science wing and donated the fleet of modern shuttle buses. Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Smith stammered, stepping between Gale and Anna with her hands raised in a placating gesture. Please, let's all calm down. There has been a very serious misunderstanding. Bella's tuition envelope went missing today, a very large sum of cash, and when Bella tried to ask Pearl about it, things escalated. Your sister became physically aggressive, and Mrs. Umbridge was only trying to restrain. Restrain? Gale's gaze shifted to Mrs. Smith. The homeroom teacher visibly flinched. Is leaving claw marks on an 8-year-old's throat and slapping her across the face what this school calls restraining? She kicked me. Anna shrieked, losing her delicate composure for a split second before remembering herself and shrinking back. Gale, she kicked me right in the stomach. She's feral. Look at my coat, she ripped the button off. I was only trying to see if she had hidden my child's tuition money under her shirt. You tried to strip an elementary school child in the middle of a school office because your daughter lost an envelope? Gale asked. He let out a short, humorless laugh that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Anna, you haven't changed a bit. Still completely detached from reality. Gale. Anna gasped, looking genuinely wounded. How can you speak to me like that? After everything we went through? After everything you promised me? What I promised 10 years ago was to be an idiot, and thankfully, I recovered. Gale said coldly. He turned his head slightly toward one of the men behind him. Mark. Call the district superintendent. Then call our legal team. Tell them to draft a formal complaint for child battery, assault, defamation, and gross negligence against both Mrs. Umbridge and this school. Wait. Mrs. Smith cried out, her face going pale. Mr. Henderson, there's no need to bring the board into this. We can resolve this internally. The missing money. Let's talk about the missing money, Gale interrupted. He walked over to me, crouched down, and pulled a clean linen handkerchief from his breast pocket. Without a word, he gently pressed it against the scratches on my neck. His fingers were steady, but I could feel the tension radiating off him. Pearl. Did you touch her cash? I didn't even know she had cash, I muttered, looking down at my sneakers. I told them I'd pay it out of my own pocket just so they'd stop screaming, but I didn't steal a single cent. She said it was only a few $1,000s. I have 3 times that in my piggy bank. Gale sighed, running a hand over his face. Pearl, how many times have I told you? Offering to pay for things you didn't do doesn't make you noble, it just makes you look guilty to stupid people. I was trying to stop them from calling you. I hissed under my breath. Gail raised an eyebrow. Why? Since when are you afraid of me showing up? Because I thought you'd turn back into a pathetic lovesick villain the moment. You smelled her cheap rose perfume, I thought bitterly, but I kept my mouth shut. Gail stood up, turned back to the room, and adjusted his cuffs. Mark, bring the IT director up here. The school installed 36 new high-definition security cameras in this wing last month. I know because I paid for them. Let's see what actually happened to this famous tuition envelope. Bella, who had been sniffling quietly behind Anna the entire time, suddenly stopped crying. The principal's office was 3 doors down, but nobody moved an inch. Mark returned less than 5 minutes later, flanked not just by the school's trembling IT technician, but by the school principal himself, Mr. Sterling, who was still out of breath from sprinting up the stairs. Mr. Henderson. Please, what is going on here? Mr. Sterling gasped, wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. I was told there was an altercation. Your homeroom teacher allowed a parent to physically assault my sister over an unsubstantiated accusation of theft, Gail said smoothly, leaning against the teacher's desk. We are currently pulling the hallway and classroom feeds from 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Anna crossed her arms, trying to project righteous indignation. Go ahead. Look at the cameras. My daughter wouldn't lie to me. She brought $5,000 in an unmarked brown envelope this morning because the bank transfer didn't go through. She put it in her front zipper pocket, and by lunchtime, it was gone. Bella tugged at Anna's sleeve, her voice trembling. Mom, maybe we shouldn't make a big deal out of it. Pearl probably didn't mean to. Quiet, Bella. Anna snapped, her maternal mask slipping. You work too hard to be intimidated by rich bullies. Gale thinks he can throw his weight around just because he has a little money now, but the truth will come out. The IT tech plugged his tablet into the office smartboard. The footage from classroom 3B flickered onto the screen. Fast forward to the morning break, Gale instructed calmly. Around 10:15 a.m. The footage sped up. Little figures moved like ants. Then it slowed to normal speed. On the screen, the classroom was mostly empty. Pearl, me, was sitting at my desk. Head down, furiously trying to untangle a knot in my shoelace. Bella was seen walking into the frame from the hallway. She didn't look distressed or tearful. In fact, she looked around the room, spotted that only 2 other students were present, and walked deliberately toward the back lockers. She reached into her backpack, pulled out a thick brown envelope, and shoved it deep into the bottom of an unused recycling bin near the cleaning closet, covering it with a stack of old construction paper. The entire office went dead silent. Bella let out a small, terrified squeak and backed into the corner. Gale didn't even look surprised. He simply pointed at the screen. Mark, go to the recycling bin in 3B, retrieve the envelope with gloves. Bella? Anna turned around, her face twisting in shock and fury. Bella, what is that? What did you do? I didn't. Bella began to bawl in earnest now, real tears streaming down her blotchy face. Mom, you told me if I didn't get top marks and make rich friends, we were going to be evicted. You said everyone here was spoiled and looked down on us. You said if we made a scene, the school would give us a hardship scholarship like they did at the last place. I just wanted you to stop yelling at me. The confession hung in the air like a foul stench. Mrs. Smith looked like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. Bella, you lied? You coached an 8-year-old to run insurance and scholarship scams? Gale asked Anna, his voice dropping into a tone of pure disgust. You haven't just ruined your own life, Anna. You're actively destroying hers. Anna's face turned an ugly shade of crimson. The delicate, tragic victim vanished entirely, replaced by a snarling, desperate woman cornered by her own filth. You don't know anything about my life. Anna screamed, lunging a step toward Gale before one of the bodyguards silently stepped in front of her. You have everything. You always had everything. You think you're so superior because you inherited the Henderson name? You used to worship the ground I walked on. You waited 6 hours in the snow just to bring me coffee. You told me you would die for me. Gale looked at her. Really looked at her. I was 19, Gale said, without a trace of anger, just an overwhelming weariness. I was an idiot with an overinflated savior complex who thought suffering for someone was the same thing as loving them. But then my parents died, and I had to raise an actual human being. He reached down and rested a hand on my head. Raising Pearl taught me what real responsibility looks like. It cured me of whatever sickness made me look at you and see something worth saving. Gale turned to Principal Sterling. Mr. Sterling. My sister will not be returning to this classroom until Mrs. Smith is permanently removed from the teaching staff. Furthermore, my attorneys will be filing a formal police report for the assault on Pearl within the hour. If this school attempts to bury this, the Henderson Group will withdraw every cent of our endowment and pursue litigation against the board for child endangerment. Understood, Mr. Henderson. Fully understood, Sterling said, bowing repeatedly. His collar soaked in sweat. Mrs. Smith, please pack your personal items. Immediately. You are suspended pending full termination review. Mrs. Smith collapsed into her desk chair, bursting into tears. Anna stood frozen, trembling with rage and humiliation. Gale, you can't do this to me. I have nowhere else to send her. I can't afford the legal fees. Then you should have kept your hands to yourself, Gale said. He took off his suit jacket, draped it over my shoulders. It swallowed me whole, smelling like cedar and mint, and took my small hand in his. Let's go, Pearl, he said. We're getting ice cream. The pediatric urgent care was quiet. A doctor in pastel scrubs cleaned the scratches on my neck with antiseptic that stung like fire, applied an ointment, and taped a neat square of gauze over the worst of it. Gale sat in the plastic chair across from the examination table, arms crossed, watching the doctors. Every move like a hawk ready to tear someone's throat out if they pressed too hard. Once we were back in the car, he didn't start the engine right away. He tossed a bag of mint chocolate ice cream bars onto my lap and leaned back against the leather seat, staring out the windshield. I unwrapped a bar and took a bite, watching him out of the corner of my eye. Gale? I asked cautiously. What? Are you sad? He turned his head and gave me a look of profound annoyance. Sad about what? You know. Her. I gestured vaguely with the ice cream stick. The tragic heroine of your youth. The moonlight of your soul. The woman you stood on the roof for. Gale reached over and flicked my forehead, right above my eyebrow. Ow. Where do you even learn words like moonlight of your soul? He grumbled. Have you been reading those trashy romance novels Mrs. Gable leaves in the laundry room again? I'm serious. I rubbed my forehead. You didn't look at her like you wanted to kill her. You looked at her like she was a pile of dirty laundry. She is a pile of dirty laundry, Gale said, starting the engine. The car purred to life. Do you know what it felt like standing in the rain for 6 hours when I was 20? It felt cold. My shoes got ruined, and I had pneumonia for 2 weeks. When I was in the hospital, she texted me asking why I hadn't liked her new social media post. I choked on my ice cream. Really? Really, Gale said dryly, pulling out of the parking lot. I didn't wake up because I was smart. I woke up because one day I came home from work, saw you stuck inside an empty laundry hamper trying to bite the cat's tail, and realized that if I spent all my time babysitting a grown woman's tantrums, my actual sister was going to grow up to be an illiterate menace. I am not illiterate. I protested. I read at a 4th grade level. You're in 3rd grade, Pearl. That's barely an achievement. It's better than you. I have a master's degree from Wharton, you goblin. We drove home in our usual bickering rhythm, but the knot of anxiety that had been sitting in my chest since Bella walked into the classroom finally dissolved. When we opened the front door of our penthouse, a massive, overly fat ginger cat waddled over to greet us. It had one notched ear and a belly that brushed the hardwood floor. This was Barnaby, the very kitten Anna had begged Gale for years ago, only to dump in a cardboard box behind a convenience store when she discovered cats require litter box cleaning. Barnaby ignored Gale entirely, walked straight up to me, and headbutt my shin with enough force to knock over a lesser child. See? Gale kicked off his shoes and tossed his keys onto the console table. Barnaby has better judgment than I did. He hated her within 48 hours. I crouched down, burying my face in Barnaby's thick fur. The cat purred like a diesel engine. Gale? What now? Are they really going to arrest her? Gale paused, taking off his watch and setting it down. She struck a minor on private school property with multiple witnesses and video footage of the preliminary harassment. Mark already handed the footage to the precinct captain. She won't go to federal prison, but she'll have a criminal record, a massive fine, and a restraining order that keeps her 200 yards away from your school and this building. He walked over, tapped the top of my head, and pointed toward the hallway. Now go wash your hands and do your math worksheet. If I find out you paid another kid to do your long division, I'm throwing your iPad into the aquarium. It was only $5. I yelled, bolting down the hall before he could grab me. If Anna Umbridge had been a normal, rational human being, she would have taken The dismissal, paid the legal retainer, and moved to another city to start over. But Anna was not a rational human being. She was a narcissist who had lived the first 28 years of her life believing she was the tragic female lead of an epic melodrama. In her mind, every hardship was proof of her purity, every consequence was persecution by the cruel world, and every man who didn't bow to her whims was an antagonist who needed to be punished. 3 days after the incident, the school board officially terminated Mrs. Smith. Bella was expelled for deliberate fraud and violation of the Student Code of Conduct. The police issued a citation and a court summons to Anna for third-degree misdemeanor assault and child endangerment. To Anna, this wasn't a wake-up call. It was an act of war. It started on social media. On Thursday evening, while Gail was on a late-night conference call with the Henderson Group's European branch, my tablet pinged with a notification from a local news aggregator. A video had been uploaded to a popular short-form video platform. It already had 200,000 views. In the video, Anna sat in front of a bare white wall, wearing an oversized, faded sweater with no makeup. Her hair was artfully messy, and her eyes were swollen. Beside her sat Bella, clutching a worn teddy bear and staring at the camera with wide, terrified eyes. "I never wanted to make this public," Anna began, her voice cracking with cinematic precision. "As a single mother, all I ever wanted was to give my daughter a safe education. But today, I learned that in this city, money buys everything, even justice." I sat up straight in bed, clutching my blanket. My daughter was accepted into St. Jude's Academy on an academic grant. Anna wept into a tissue. From day one, she was targeted by the daughter of a prominent corporate tycoon. When Bella's tuition money went missing, I went to the school to plead for help. Instead of investigating, the tycoon used his influence to fabricate evidence, fire our homeroom teacher, expel my 8-year-old child, and have me slapped with false assault charges. She leaned closer to the lens, tears spilling down her cheeks. He told me that people like us are insects beneath his feet. He said his sister could hit my daughter every day, and nobody would ever believe us because he owns the police, the school, and the courts. Gale Henderson, you broke my heart 10 years ago, but I never thought you would use your billions to destroy an innocent little girl. The comments section was a wildfire of righteous outrage. Boycott Henderson Group products. Disgusting oligarchs. Look at that poor baby clutching her bear. The rich really think they own the world. Who is this Gale Henderson? Expose his company. Dox the sister. A grown man using his power to bully a single mother? Absolutely vile. My hand started shaking. I wasn't scared of the comments calling me a bully. I was used to being the terror of the playground. But seeing Gail's name dragged through the mud, Gail, who spent 12 hours a day at the office and came home to help me build Lego castles and make sure I didn't choke on grape skins, made a ball of pure, molten rage ignite in my stomach. I threw off the covers, grabbed my tablet, and marched straight into Gail's home office. Gail was sitting behind his mahogany desk, 3 monitors glowing in front of him. He had his headset on, speaking fluent German to a partner in Frankfurt. When he saw me storm in wearing my dinosaur pajamas with a face like thunder, he held up a finger to the call, muted his mic, and pulled off the headset. "Pearl, it's 11:30 p.m. Why aren't you?" I slammed the tablet down on his desk, screen facing up. "Look at this." Gale glanced down. He watched about 10 seconds of the video, his expression unchanging. He didn't gasp. He didn't swear. He just reached out, tapped the screen to pause Anna's tear-streaked face, and looked up at me. "Did you read the comments?" he asked. "Yes. They're saying you're a monster. They're saying they're going to boycott our supply chains and dox our address." I grabbed his arm, frantic. "Gale, she's lying. She's making up everything. Tell Mark to take it down. Tell Mark to go. Sue the platform." Gale leaned back in his leather chair, a slow, terrifyingly calm smile spreading across his face. "Pearl," he said smoothly. "Do you know what the biggest mistake an amateur chess player makes?" "What?" "They try to stop their opponent from making a stupid move." He pulled the tablet toward himself and tapped the desk with his pen. "Anna thinks public opinion is a magical shield that protects her from reality. She thinks if she screams loud enough, I will pay her off just to make the noise. Stop, like I used to when we were kids." Gale picked up his phone, dialed a direct line, and put it on speaker. Mark picked up on the first ring. "Sir. We've seen the video. It's trending in the top 10 locally. Should we have the platform take down the servers?" "No," Gale said, his voice dripping with venomous amusement. "Let it trend. In fact, buy promotion for it. Make sure it hits the national feed by tomorrow morning. Mark paused on the other end. Sir? Let her dig the hole until she hits bedrock, Gale instructed. Contact the St. Jude board. Tell them to authorize the full, unedited security footage. Release, with high-definition audio, to every major news outlet at 9 a.m. sharp. Tomorrow. Along with the police incident report, the medical examiners. Documentation of Pearl's neck injuries, Bella's written confession from the principal's office, and the bank statements proving Anna never withdrew $5,000 from any account in the last 6 months. Gale looked at me, his eyes gleaming with the sharp, ruthless intelligence that had made him the most feared young CEO in the city. And Mark? Yes, Mr. Henderson. Call the charity foundation hosting the annual St. Jude Founders Gala this Saturday. Anna received a guest invitation last month through her former patron. Didn't she? Yes, sir. She's been boasting about attending on her social channels. Don't revoke her invitation, Gale said softly. Let her come. She wants a stage. I'll give her the whole damn theater. By Friday afternoon, the internet had experienced what modern culture calls whiplash. At 8 a.m., social media users were demanding Gale Henderson be dragged before a congressional hearing for corporate tyranny. At 9:15 a.m., the Henderson Group's legal PR team released the uncut dossier. The 4-minute video began with crystal-clear 4K security footage from the classroom. It showed Bella calmly looking around, burying the envelope in the recycling bin, and walking away. Then it transitioned to the office footage. Anna screaming like a banshee, lunging at an 8-year-old girl, clawing her throat, and delivering a vicious open-handed slap that echoed through the microphone. Next came the audio recording of Bella crying, admitting her mother told her to stage scams for scholarships. Finally, the document scans, high-resolution color photographs of the bloody scratches on my neck, signed by a board-certified pediatrician, followed by the certified bank records showing Anna's checking account had held a grand total of $42 for the past 3 weeks. The internet did not just turn on Anna, it obliterated her. Holy shit. She literally attacked an 8-year-old on camera? Look at the mother's face when she grabbed the kid's collar. That's a psychopath. The little girl was coached to steal her own tuition to frame a classmate. Call Child Protective Services. Gale Henderson was actually holding back. If someone slapped my little sister like that, they wouldn't have left that room. Walking. Can we talk about how the sister kicked her right in the gut? Though. Kid has reflexes. By 3 p.m., Anna's social media accounts were flooded with millions of comments calling for her immediate arrest. The platform permanently banned her account for child exploitation and harassment. Reporters camped outside her rental apartment complex, but the landlord informed them that she had already packed 2 suitcases and slipped out through the back alley. Anna was completely cut off. She had no money, no social media platform, a pending warrant for child battery. And every bridge she had ever built was reduced to ash. To a normal person, this was checkmate. To Anna, who was drowning in the delusions of her own grandeur, there was only one move left, the grand public confrontation. She believed, in her diseased mind, that Gale was only doing this to hurt her. Because he still loved her. She believed this was his way of punishing her for choosing other men in the past. If she could just see him in person, in front of the city's high society, where he couldn't hide behind lawyers and press releases, she could appeal to the boy who had once knelt in the snow for her. She would make him save her. The grand ballroom of the Bellevue Hotel was bathed in golden light from crystal chandeliers the size of small cars. Every prominent family, corporate executive, and educational patron in the state was in attendance for the annual St. Jude Founders Gala. Men in bespoke tuxedos and women in haute couture gowns sipped vintage champagne, their conversations a gentle hum of polite laughter and quiet business deals. I was miserable. Gale had made me wear a navy blue velvet dress with white lace cuffs and patent leather Mary Janes. My hair was tied up in 2 neat braids with silk ribbons. If you scratch your nose and ruin the bandage, I'm taking away your dessert privileges, Gale warned, adjusting his midnight blue tuxedo bow tie in the mirror of the VIP lounge before we walked out. This dress is itchy, I complained, kicking my heels against the sofa leg. Why did I have to come? I could have stayed home with Barnaby. Because tonight, you are the victim of a vicious smear campaign who is bravely attending a philanthropic event with her devoted older brother, Gale said. Without missing a beat, smoothing down his lapels. Public optics, Pearl. Eat your shrimp cocktail and look adorable. You're evil, I said, hopping off the sofa. I'm effective, he corrected, offering me his arm. Now take my hand and try not to bite anyone. When we entered the ballroom, heads turned instantly. Gale was barely 26, but he carried himself with the lethal composure of a veteran statesman. Beside him, I looked like a tiny, polished porcelain doll. With a neat square of gauze on my neck, a visual reminder to every person in that room of what had transpired 48 hours ago. Prominent figures immediately swarmed Gale to offer their sympathies and express their disgust at the unfortunate incident. Gale, my boy, truly horrifying what that deranged woman attempted, said Senator Vance, shaking Gale's hand warmly. If you need any assistance with the district attorney's office, you just let me know. Thank you, Senator. The law will take its course, Gale replied with flawless icy charm. Then, the double doors at the far end of the ballroom swung open. The room fell abruptly silent. Anna Umbridge stood in the entrance. She had somehow gained entry, likely using an old physical invitation card that hadn't been cross-checked at the crowded perimeter. She was wearing a scarlet evening gown that looked like it had been pulled from a theater prop closet. Her makeup was applied heavily over dark circles, her hair was piled high in an elaborate, slightly lopsided updo, and she was clutching an old, leather-bound notebook to her chest. Behind her, looking miserable and exhausted, was Bella, dressed in an ill-fitting party dress that was far too small for her. Security guards at the door immediately moved toward her, but Gale raised a single, calm hand from across the room. The guards paused. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as Anna marched down the center carpet, her eyes locked entirely on Gale. She didn't look at the senators, the CEOs, or the diamond-dripping socialites. She looked only at my brother. Gale, she said, her voice trembling with theatrical intensity as she stopped 10 paces away. I instinctively stepped behind Gale's leg, peeking out from behind his tailored trousers. Anna, Gale said, not moving an inch. He took a slow sip from his champagne. Flute. You are violating a temporary restraining order by being within 200 yards of my sister. Is that all I am to you now? A court order? Anna's voice rose, echoing off the high vaulted ceiling. Guests began murmuring, pulling out their phones to record. Look at me, Gale. Look at what you've done to the woman you promised to cherish. She held up the leather notebook. Do you remember this? This is the journal you wrote for me our freshman year of college. 300 pages of poetry. You told me I was your muse. You told me that no matter what happened, no matter who came between us, your heart would always belong to me. She took 2 steps closer, tears finally breaking through her heavy mascara, leaving dark, messy streaks down her cheeks. I made mistakes, Gale. I admit it. I was young, I was scared, I chose the wrong men. But I came back. I brought my daughter to your city because I knew you were the only man who could ever truly protect us. And how did you welcome me? You set your little sister on my child. You had your lawyers destroy my reputation. You turned the whole world against me. She dropped to her knees right there on the parquet floor, the scarlet dress pooling around her like fake blood. Is this what you wanted, Gale? To see me broken? To see me beg? Fine. I'm begging you. Tell your lawyers to drop the charges. Give Bella her place back at the academy. Take us in. For the sake of the love we shared, don't throw me into the dark. It was a performance worthy of a Broadway tragedy. If this had happened 5 years ago, the old Gale Henderson, the broken, brooding villain of the original novel, might have felt that familiar, toxic pang of guilt. He might have stepped forward, offered his hand, and trapped himself in her endless cycle of emotional vampirism forever. Instead, Gale took another sip of his champagne, turned to the waiter beside him, and handed off his empty glass. Then, he looked down at the woman on her knees. Anna, Gale said, his voice carrying clearly to every corner of the silent hall. Do you know why I wrote those poems 10 years ago? Anna looked up, hope flashing in her eyes. Because you loved me. No, Gale said plainly. Because I was a stupid, lonely kid who didn't know the difference between being needed and being used. He stepped forward, standing right above her, his shadow completely engulfing her crumpled figure. You didn't come to this city because you remembered our love. You came because your ex-husband drained your joint accounts, your second boyfriend left. You and his wife found out, and you ran out of people to manipulate in your hometown. You looked at the news, saw that the Henderson group was expanding, and thought you could cash in an expired coupon from a decade ago. Anna's face drained of what little color it had left. Gale, that's not true. It is true, a gruff, slurred voice called out from the back of the ballroom. Every head turned again. Standing near the perimeter security was a disheveled man in a wrinkled gray suit, his hair greasy and his eyes bloodshot. 2 security guards were holding his arms, but he wasn't trying to fight them. He was staring at Anna with pure, unadulterated hatred. It was Richard Vance Jr. The very ex-boyfriend Anna had dumped Gale for 8 years ago, the man for whom she had staged her fake suicide attempt on the river bridge. Richard? Anna gasped, scrambling backward on the floor. Surprise, Anna, Richard sneered, shaking off the guard's light grip. He pulled a sheaf of folded papers from his jacket pocket and tossed them onto the floor. In front of her. Mr. Henderson's investigators were kind enough to pay off my outstanding gambling debts in exchange for my sworn deposition. Richard turned to face the crowd, gesturing wildly at Anna. She's been doing this for 15 years. When she was with Gail, she was texting me. When she was with me, she was sleeping with my business partner. Bella isn't even my kid, and she tried to sue me for child support 3 different times with fake paternity tests. She stages domestic disputes, calls the local news, and settles out of court with hush money. She's not a tragic single mother, she's a professional parasite. Shut up. Shut up. Anna shrieked, lunging across the floor to grab the papers, ripping them into shreds with her bare hands. You're all lying. Gail paid you to say this. Gail orchestrated everything. Mom. Bella's small, broken voice cut through Anna's screaming. Bella was standing near the edge of the carpet, looking at the ripped papers, at the crowd of wealthy patrons staring in horror, and at her mother rolling on the floor like a lunatic. Bella dropped the teddy bear onto the ground. Mom, please stop, Bella whispered, tears streaming down her pale face. Everyone is looking at us. Please, just stop. Anna didn't even look at her own daughter. She was too busy screaming at Gail. You ruined me. You ruined my life. I hope you die alone, Gale Henderson. I hope your sister rots. 2 uniformed police officers, who had been waiting outside the ballroom doors, pursuant to Gale's restraining order filing, marched in. Within 30 seconds, Anna was pulled to her feet, her hands cuffed behind her. Back in full view of 300 of the city's most influential citizens and 20 different smartphone cameras. Anna Umbridge, the lead officer, recited loudly. You are under arrest for violation of a protection order, misdemeanor assault on a minor, child endangerment, and felony fraud. As they dragged her toward the side exit, Anna thrashed and wailed, her elaborate updo completely falling apart, her scarlet gown tearing at the hem. Gail. Look at me. Gail. You promised. You promised. Her screams echoed down the service corridor until the heavy soundproof doors slammed shut, cutting off the noise entirely. The ballroom was left in stunned, breathless silence. Bella stood alone in the middle of the floor, shivering in her tiny, cheap dress. Gail looked down at the little girl for a moment. There was no hatred in his eyes, only the profound, quiet pity one feels for a stray dog raised by a cruel master. He glanced at Mark. Mark. Contact the State Department of Child and Family Services. Ensure the child is placed in the private youth sanctuary upstate under the Henderson Foundation's custody umbrella. Pay for her full tuition, her housing, and top-tier psychological counseling until she turns 18. Mark bowed. Understood, sir. Gail then turned back to the room, picked up a fresh glass of sparkling cider from a passing tray, and handed it down to me. Pearl. Yeah? Did you finish your shrimp? I ate 5, I said proudly. Gail nodded with supreme satisfaction. Good. Let's go home. This party is boring. 6 months later. The morning sun poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse, illuminating a scene of absolute, chaotic domesticity. Barnaby the cat was sprawled across the kitchen island like a 20-pound furry loaf, swatting lazily at the edge of Gail's financial newspaper. Gail was standing at the stove in a charcoal gray cashmere sweater and sweatpants, expertly flipping blueberry pancakes with one hand while holding a cup of black coffee with the other. I marched into the kitchen, wearing my oversized school uniform sweater, and slammed my backpack onto the kitchen chair with a heavy thud. Gail didn't even turn around. If that backpack contains another live frog. Pearl, I am selling your Lego collection to a pawn shop. It's not a frog. I shouted indignantly, pulling out a bright red folder and slapping it onto the counter. Look. Gail raised an eyebrow, turned off the burner, and picked up the folder. Inside was a 3rd-grade mathematics exam. At the top, written in bold red ink, was an 88%, accompanied by a gold star sticker that said good effort. Gail stared at the paper for a solid 10 seconds. Who did you bribe? He asked solemnly. Nobody. I gasped, outraged. I studied. I did the long division with the little boxes, just like you showed me. Gail looked from the paper to my face, then back to the paper. A slow, genuine smile broke across his handsome face, the kind of warm, unburdened smile that never existed in the tragic romance novel he was supposed to die in. He reached out, ruffled my hair until my braids were completely crooked, and pulled the plate of blueberry pancakes toward my seat. Not bad, Menace, he said softly. Not bad at all. Can I get that new remote control drone now? I asked immediately, hopping onto the bar stool and drowning my pancakes in maple syrup. Gale's smile vanished, replaced by his usual deadpan scowl. You scored an 88. Pearl, not a Nobel Prize. Eat your breakfast before the bus gets here. He sat down across from me, sipping his coffee and opening his laptop. Life had settled into a steady, comfortable rhythm. Mrs. Smith was currently working at a dry cleaner's on the other side of town. After her teaching license was permanently revoked. Anna Umbridge had taken a plea deal, 2 years of supervised probation, mandatory psychiatric rehabilitation, and complete loss of parental custody. Bella had been moved to the quiet, tree-lined campus of St. Jude's sister boarding school upstate, where reports indicated she was slowly learning how to make friends without lying, thriving under the care of specialized counselors. Funded entirely by an anonymous Henderson scholarship. As for my brother, the brooding, self-destructive villain destined to ruin his family for a woman who never loved him was nowhere to be found. In his place was a 26-year-old billionaire whose biggest daily stress was figuring out how to explain fractions to an 8-year-old with the attention span of a goldfish. My tablet buzzed on the counter. It was a text from my new seatmate at school. Maya, did you bring the glitter pens for art class? I typed back a quick yes and stuffed the tablet into my bag. Gale? What? He muttered, typing an email with one hand while shooing Barnaby away from his toast. Are you going to get a girlfriend now? Gale stopped typing. He looked at me, looked at the pile of dirty dishes in the sink, looked at the cat currently trying to chew on his laptop charger, and let out a long, dramatic sigh. Pearl, he said, rubbing the bridge of his nose. I have a multi-billion-dollar enterprise to run, a 20-pound cat with digestive issues, and a little sister who fights people in the cafeteria over chocolate pudding. When exactly do you think I have time for a girlfriend? I grinned, my mouth full of pancake. Never. Exactly, Gale said, closing his laptop with a sharp snap and handing me my lunchbox. Now grab your shoes. You're going to be late, and I am not driving you to school in my pajamas again. I grabbed my bag, gave Barnaby a parting pat on his fat belly, and bolted toward the front door, laughing all the way down the hall. The story had been written for tragedy, but we had torn out the pages. And as far as I was concerned, our version was 100 times better.